Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our Travel Talk series by Trip 101. So, this is a series where we talk to different travelers and area experts from across the world, and we try and help you guys plan your trip even more efficiently. My name is Nirja Bhatt, and I am from the lovely city of Goa in India. I'm an editor by passion, but I love traveling as well. And I like to learn about different places and cultures and talk to different people and engage with them to understand their travel a bit more. Indeed. So for today, we'll be talking about a high altitude Colombian city called Bogota. It is known for its coffee culture, beautiful museums, and rich culture. We also have Tara joining us today, who will tell us more about this beautiful city and walk us through her journey. Hi, Tara.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Lovely to have you as well. Can you please introduce yourself before we begin?
My name is Tara, born and raised and currently living in Canada, and I run the website Travel with TMIC.
Nice. So, what kind of traveler are you? Like, how many places have you traveled so far?
I've traveled more than 30, less than 40. I don't know the
Wow.
exact number. And in terms of the kind of traveler that I am, I would say curious best describes it because my style of travel has changed a lot over the
Okay.
years. I have lived in different countries and traveled from those, but I've also backpacked. And in the last few years, I purchased a camper van, so I've been traveling that way as
Wow.
well. So, yeah, like a wide range of things, but I think the constant theme is curious.
That's nice. I've always wanted to travel with the camper van. It's
Mm.
kind of like comforting as well as you get best of both the worlds.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
When you say 30, 40 places, do you mean countries?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I cannot imagine how much of an experience you would have had.
Yeah, I feel pretty fortunate. There's lots more to see still, but I've been able to see a lot so far.
I'm sure you'll get to see more. So, can you tell us why you chose this location?
I had been wanting to go to South America and Central
Mm-hmm.
America for a long time. And at the end of each year, I write like a goals post for the coming year. So I write
Right.
about my personal goals, my travel goals, and my professional goals. And I wanted to go to two new continents in 2024. And yeah, and luckily a friend has been living in Bogota for years. And so I messaged her a couple of weeks beforehand and said, feel like a guest. So I got to go and visit her, but I also got to go to a new country and a new content, crossing off part of one of my goals. Yeah, that's how I decided on Colombia.
That's perfect. Can you tell me, like, when you decide to go in a different country, what are the criteria you have in your mind? Or do you just take a map and just put a pin on it and be like, yeah, that's where I'm going?
Yeah, I always say that you could literally drop me anywhere in the world and I'd be happy to explore. I just want to learn more. So the destination, it matters to me, but if it's
Mm-hmm.
somewhere new or if it even if it's somewhere from been somewhere within that destination yet, I'm always keen to go and check it out. Part of it I think depends on weather because you want it to be enjoyable. I
Right.
was in Puerto Rico 2 years ago in May, which turned out to be the worst time of
Oh
year to be
no.
there. It was for a conference, but I could not handle the heat. And I think the other thing that dictates to some extent where I go is budget.
Right.
You want to be able to enjoy the place as much as possible. And if you can't do anything because it's too expensive, then maybe it's not a great option.
Yes.
And then the other reason that I pick destinations is if I have friends or family there, because I prefer to live in places because you get to
Right.
dig in a little bit more to the culture. But if you aren't living somewhere and you know
Mm-hmm.
somebody who is, you get a bit more of that experience in that shorter time frame. So yeah, there's
Yeah,
many
that
different.
sounds like an entire formula.
Yeah, it's not as complex.
Right, but comfort is guaranteed. It should be guaranteed in any place because if you don't really find that place comfortable, you won't get the best of the trip. So yeah, I get your answer. Yeah, coming back to Colombia, can you tell me when you traveled there for how long?
Yep. So Canadians might be familiar with a certain break called March break.
Mm-hmm.
As it sounds, it's in March, it's for a week. And it's actually one of the most expensive times of the year for Canadians to travel just because travel companies know that everybody's traveling at that point.
Right.
But luckily, I use points and miles. So when I reached out to my friend, I thought, oh, I want to move my office for the week. She's living there. How good of a deal can I get with points and miles? And I paid about a tenth of the ticket price. Yeah,
Fortunate.
I'm very fortunate. Yeah, there's like planning and strategy that comes in with that, but everything panned out for that to happen.
Okay, can you tell me before you went there, what was your thought process? What were you expecting from Bogota?
Oh, so I have several friends growing up who
Right,
are from Colombia, and obviously love hearing about their memories and their connection with their culture. But also, I speak Spanish, and I haven't spent time in a Spanish speaking country in a while,
right,
so that factored into Colombia, South America as well, being part of my choice. But I really didn't have many expectations and I going in blind to a place because you come in with a clean slate.
right.
You're not projecting any
Mm-hmm.
or you're projecting less of yourself onto the destination and you get to experience it how it is then. I was also going to be working while I was there. So I essentially
Okay.
just as a travel writer, I get to work from wherever
Yes.
there's Wi-Fi. So it was, yeah, I don't know. Everything just aligned for it. And I knew that I would love the experience regardless, just because of hearing my friends talk about how beautiful the culture is. And I knew that it would be a warm and welcoming place.
Perfect. And how did you plan the trip? How did you prepare for the steps you took before you went there?
Oh, I'm the worst person to ask this question. I did literally like a couple weeks before I left. All I did was message my friend that was living there and say, "Hey, are you around? Is it okay if I come?" And when she said yes, I bought the ticket, and then I did not do any other research or prep for the trip. I just
And
showed up. I again, like I knew I would be working while I was there, so I wouldn't be like doing a ton of
uh-huh.
traveling, but I would have it as my base to go and explore. And I knew that she would be helpful with ideas on the spot too. And so yeah, I really didn't do much planning for this trip.
Right, it was I'm already excited to know how it turned out.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic visit. I think Colombia is a wonderful place. Anybody who gets a chance to go and visit should definitely go and check it out. And if you know how to speak Spanish, you can
Right,
experience it in a completely different way as well. Yeah, fabulous place. I would go back in a heartbeat.
perfect. Can you walk me through your entire holiday, what you did there, the places you saw?
So when I'm working in a place, I really love to go to different cafes and coffee shops and preferably ones that are owned by people who
Nice.
live in the destination. I'm not a Starbucks fan. That's not why you go somewhere new,
Right.
right? So yeah, I had a little map once I got there. My friend had suggested a few cafes that might be great, and I would hunker down for a good 5, 6 hours and try as many things on the menu as I could while getting my work done. And in terms of more, let's say, touristy things or like tours and such that I checked out there, I went
Right.
to Usakane Market and I love chocolate. So I stumbled upon a chocolate shop there and it turned out that they did not tours, but they did like workshops. And the woman who was working that day had actually lived in Vancouver, Canada for a little bit. So we had a lovely time. She taught us
Yeah.
much and it was delicious, of course. Brought home some goodies from there. And then following the food theme, because I do love to eat, I went on, my friend had suggested two tours to me, both of which can be found on Airbnb experiences. But one of them
Okay.
was a fruit tour. I have never tasted so many fruit in my life. We had,
Nice.
I think, 25 fruit on this trip and it was all in one market too. It was fantastic for people who maybe have a little bit less mobility
Hmm.
or who don't want to deal with the heat or whatever else. It's very convenient and my God, it was delicious. So that was at the big fruit market. I learned how to play Tejo, which is the national sport. Did that for
Wow.
one evening. Yeah, that's a wild experience.
Yeah.
And then I also went on another food tour, and that was a walking food tour through the Candelaria neighborhood, which is a beautiful historic part and a bit more touristy, I would say, but still
Hmm.
really neat to go and check out. So yeah, I ate a lot while I was in Colombia. I ate my way through Bogota.
And that's the best kind of holiday.
Honestly, it really is. Yeah, I agree.
And what about any famous places that you saw? Because I know there's something called as Gold Museum there.
Yeah, I went to a couple of museums. I was looking through my notes before we hopped on the call, and I can't remember the name of it. But I also went up Montserrat, which has like gorgeous panoramic views of the city. I did that
Wow.
in the evening time, and that was just such a lovely way to end the trip. And it gave me a better appreciation for the size of Bogota. Like the place is massive.
Massive, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was really lovely. And I had good weather that night too, so it was clear. You could see for forever. It was excellent. But the markets were both, I would say, like destinations that people check out. Yeah, I didn't go to too many places other than that. Like I said, like I would work one day
Yeah.
and then hang out with my friend in the evening. We'd catch up, we'd go out for dinner with her and her colleagues, and then the next day I would do something tour related and then hang out with my friend in the evening and so on and so forth. So it was about maybe 3 days of exploring and then 3 or 4 days of working while I was there.
Okay. So can you tell me about the neighborhood you lived in? Like, what can be done over there? What did you do over there?
Yeah, it's a part of the city where I think a bit more foreigners live when they're teaching there or they're
Uh-huh.
there for a longer period of time. A lot of people, and I don't know if this would have been broached anyhow in the conversation, but a lot of people ask about safety in Colombia and Bogota, especially
Right.
people who haven't been there or are not familiar with it. I felt super safe everywhere I was, whether it was in her neighborhood, which I think is known for being a little bit more, let's say, foreigner friendly, just in terms of you don't have to be as aware, perhaps. You can be a little bit more oblivious, maybe is the way to put it. But it was the city, like I said, is massive and we Ubered everywhere. They suggest when you're in Bogota to pre-book your Ubers,
Okay.
not to get them from the street, which was a first for me. I've never really been in a destination where I can't walk everywhere. And so I could walk within the neighborhoods or if I was with her, but as somebody who's writing and photographing a place with a big DSLR, it maybe wasn't as smart.
Okay. Like transportation wise, there's buses around as well, right?
There are buses, and that's typically how I like to travel. I love taking public
Mm-hmm.
transportation when I'm in a location. I was in Mexico last December and took buses there and loved it. But again, I speak Spanish,
Right.
so I feel a little bit more comfortable in a new place. But in Colombia, while they do have public transportation and such, it was suggested, even by my friends who are from Colombia, they said, "Oh, it's probably better if you pre-book your Ubers and go about it that way."
Okay. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about your accommodation?
So it was her apartment. I
Right.
don't have any hotels to share or any hostels to share, but it was a great two-bedroom apartment with a fabulous, felt very much like home because she had such a wonderful touch in the place. So, yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me more about it just to get the feel of the vibe of the place that you stayed in, like the neighborhood? What kind of
Mhm.
vibe did it have? Bursting with
Uh,
nightlife options and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say too much for nightlife, though there were different restaurants
Mm-hmm.
and not so much cafes. I would say more so restaurants in the area. There was a mixture of, there was actually a Canadian owned restaurant.
Okay.
Wild to see teen and things like that listed out. It just, that's not what you're expecting when you go to Colombia. They had a few local food restaurants there, but
Right.
also Italian food. And there was a taco place that we went to. And yeah, there were a mix of food restaurants in the area, international mix. Yeah.
Did you get to try any cultural food there?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. All of that fruit absolutely blew my mind. I had to take pictures of everything because I was like, I've never tried this one. I've never tried this one. I've never tried this one. The biodiversity in Colombia is through the roof. So in terms of fruit specifically, oh my gosh, it's just you're in heaven with everything that you taste.
Sounds
Um,
yummy.
Oh, it was so good. I also had there's a soup that I tried, which I'm going to blank on the name of right now, but that was very particular to Bogota
Mm-hmm.
and Colombia. On the food tour, we tasted a little bit of chocolate when we were in the Candelaria
Right.
neighborhood. We had, of course, like different fried foods, like finger foods and things like
Yes.
that. Yeah, there was a good mix. But I will say I was surprised. I hope I don't step on any toes with this. I was surprised at the how little spices and such are used in the cuisine in
Okay.
Colombia. Very meat heavy. You don't see a lot of veggies, so lots of meat, a little bit of cheese. Yeah, it's a heavier diet, but that fruit is like heavenly. Yeah.
Yeah, my next question is going to be food related. I wanted to ask whether the food options in the place that you traveled in, is it vegan, vegetarian, or gluten-free friendly?
You can definitely find vegan and vegetarian food, though I think you'd have to dig a little bit more for it. Like I said, very meat
Yeah.
heavy cuisine. Yeah, I think you'd have to do a little bit of research for that.
Okay. I'm personally a vegetarian, so I'm always on the lookout of, and I really actually like the tour because just the diversity that you're talking about of fruits, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people who are vegetarian or vegan will love to experience.
Definitely. In a big place like Bogota as
Mm-hmm.
well, I think that you'll have more options than perhaps you would in the rest of the country, though I could be wrong, but I would just think
Yeah.
massive city, you'll find something.
Did you get to try any coffee, Colombian coffee? You know, it's very
Don't like
famous.
coffee.
Oh no.
I'm not a coffee drinker and I'm not a beer drinker, which I know are huge things for people to try in other places. But I did bring back home some tea, some cocoa tea from the chocolate shop I mentioned in Usakane
Right.
Market. So the tea was delicious. Speak to the coffee.
Tea lovers will appreciate that. Colombia is known for coffee, but tea is perfect as
I
well.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Next, I wanted to ask is, while you were there, was there any need for you to carry a water bottle around, or could you just open a tap and drink from there?
Yeah, the water, as far as I remember, was fine to drink from the tap. Gosh, that's been a few months now. I don't recall there being an issue with that. And I have a water bottle I bring with me everywhere. And especially with the heat,
Right.
I like to have a water bottle, like a, don't have it beside me. It's always beside me, but it's this one that folds up. It's from a company called Vapor. They're super cool. I love these water bottles, but they're
Okay.
lightweight, they're easy to carry around. And yeah, I try to avoid plastic as much as possible.
Okay. My next question was, you said that you were there for a working vacation as well.
Yeah.
So did you have to, was Wi-Fi readily available everywhere you went?
Yeah, so this is changing a little bit for me, but when I was at my friend's house, I
Right.
obviously had access to Wi-Fi there. At the cafes, zero issues with the Wi-Fi there. I streamed like video stream talking with friends and
Right.
such, and it was great. But I also, when I go to locations, I usually buy a SIM card there. In the past, I've used physical SIMs. I'm starting to look into eSIMs a little bit, and there's a
Right.
company I might be working with that is an eSIM company as well. So I did a physical sim while I was in Colombia, and that was
Okay.
sufficient. But yeah, in terms of the cafes, no problem with Wi-Fi.
Great. That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, and I think in a place like that, it's handy to have as well because if you need to book your Uber or whatever else,
Yeah.
you you need the data, you need the Wi-Fi.
Right, and it's a great tip as well because these are the kind of things that people don't really consider when going to another place. These are like essentially more important to your overall
Yes.
experience. So great.
Yeah, and I think they give people peace of mind as well. I traveled before we had Wi-Fi at the time, but I traveled before Instagram was a thing and before, it was really a thing. And you can do it. You can definitely do it. And it's a fantastic experience. I know some people they really value or appreciate it having it some more. So yeah, buy a physical SIM. You can get them in the airport when you arrive in Bogota.
Okay.
There are several phone companies that are there when you get there. And if you're Canadian, you'll know that we have the worst data plans in the world, both in terms of price and amount. But in Colombia, it was well priced and reasonable for what you got.
Okay, perfect. You said you know Spanish, which made your experience a little easier.
Yeah.
But is it necessary for anyone to, if they don't know Spanish or if they don't know any other common languages spoken there, could they just get by with English?
I think anywhere you go in the world, especially as an Anglophone, especially as an English
Mm-hmm.
speaker, it's important to pick up phrases that can show
Right.
you are polite and are making an effort, whether it's hello or please or thank you. A little bit goes a long way. My background is actually in languages and linguistics. And yeah, I feel very strongly for as English speakers, we have this privilege of being able to move through the world with a lot more ease than
Mm-hmm.
many travelers or many people moving places. And yeah, you don't need Spanish there, but if you can do some practice beforehand, it doesn't matter if you make mistakes, it doesn't matter if you mess up. A, that will make for a great story. And B, people everywhere appreciate when there's an effort made to participate in their culture
Yes.
because that's why you're there in the first place.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good answer. And can you tell me more about the people there? Were they welcoming to you, to, most tourists?
Yeah, honestly, I loved my time in Colombia because of the interactions with people. I do think some of that had to do with my ability to speak Spanish. Like
Right.
every Uber driver that I talked with, such great conversations. And they were surprised that this gringa was able to say more than hello and goodbye. So we were able to, I was able to learn about their families, and they were telling me about like where I should check out and what I should do. And everybody was like, "Oh, wow, you chose to come here. That's really cool." And I was surprised in some ways that
Okay.
they were surprised that I had chosen Colombia, but everybody was like, "Come back. It's an awesome place." And I was like, "Yeah, I can tell." And I don't know. I found Colombia very welcoming and warm. And so for anybody who reads too much of the news and the negative things that are put out there,
Right.
people are wonderful everywhere. You will always find warmth and hospitality and kindness wherever you go. Colombia is great.
Perfect. That's nice to hear. So, if you had to be there for 1 week just traveling there, how would you plan your itinerary?
For somebody who's a first timer there, I would say plan to get a SIM card at the airport because that's going to
Great.
give you a lot of flexibility and ease while you're traveling there. Have a few phrases in your pocket beforehand. You can use something as simple as Duolingo, but there's a great tool called wordreference.com. There's
Okay.
also an app for it that's free. It's what I use with all of my language students or as myself personally when I'm reading or writing in another language. It
Okay.
doesn't translate a phrase, but if you are looking at a menu and you're not sure what something means, wordreference.com is a lot more reliable than Google Translate. What else? I would say plan a couple of tours. I think Bogota is a good place to go on tours to give you that understanding and feeling of the place. I really like walking through a place and experiencing it for myself
Yes.
first, but I think that it's a place where just because petty theft is a thing there, I think the guided tours are a good idea. So Airbnb
Okay.
experiences were where I had two of the tours. Usakane Market, definitely go and check it out. Put that on your list for sure. There's a wonderful buzz about the place. There's tons of things to eat. It's great for
Lots
people
of
watching.
fruits.
Oh yeah, lots of fruit. But yeah, and I would say get ready for the hills because it's a very hilly place.
Right.
Oh, and another tip that I would say for Bogota is don't bother with sandals. I usually pack a pair of sandals, but
Okay.
I wore closed-toed shoes the whole time and was happy I did. One, because a lot of the walking surfaces are
Uh-huh.
uneven. And
I
so the
see.
likelihood of you stubbing your toe or tripping are relatively high compared to other places. And you might as well wear closed-toed shoes then to save your
Right.
toes. Um, but the other thing was, and I hope I'm getting this right, but like local people don't wear sandals that often or like dresses and such. Everybody in
That's
Bogota, like,
surprising.
yeah, they all, and I wanted to wear cute dresses and enjoy the scenery and all this, whatever. And yeah, they wear jeans everywhere all the time. So if you want to, as much as you can, because you can't really, but if you want to feel like a local,
Right.
pack your jeans, pack your closed-toed shoes. And yeah, another tip for when walking around the city is that there's an activist or artist activist who, on all this uneven, broken up sidewalks,
Okay.
they marked everything that was broken with red X's so that you can see where you're going because I think it's kind of
Nice.
not a rite of passage, but it's pretty common there to roll an ankle or fall and
Okay.
potentially hurt yourself. And so just in general, you should be aware of your surroundings, but watch where you're walking. And I think
Right.
that is a helpful tip for people too when they're in Bogota.
Right. Yeah, that leads me to a question that, there might be people not very oriented to walking a lot or walking at an altitude. Is Bogota friendly
Right.
to those people as well?
I think because you Uber everywhere, it can be friendly for those people.
Okay.
It's not like in Italy where when you're on a walking tour, you're walking everywhere.
Right.
The walking tour that I did in the Candelaria neighborhood was maybe a little bit tough for some people. I'm trying to think if we had anybody in the group that struggled, but maybe if it takes longer for you to acclimatize to higher altitudes, book the walking tours for 4 days into your trip so that your
Okay.
body has had
Yeah.
some time to adjust. Maybe I would say that. Yeah. I think that would be a good tip that way.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good tip. Also, could you tell me if the place is kid friendly? Children have,
Oh
children
gosh,
enjoy.
honestly, yeah. So this may be an unpopular opinion. It's also maybe uneducated because I don't have kids of my own, but I think
Okay.
everywhere in the world is kid friendly. Like people love kids. You look at a kid and you smile. This happens. I was out with my nephew and my sister yesterday, and random strangers are smiling at us and saying hello. People don't do that to adults. Yeah, kids are a wonderful way to break the ice when you're in a new culture, I think. Obviously, there need to be some different plannings or a different pace or a different
Right.
structure that you work with when you're traveling with kids. But I think it comes down to, and again, I don't have children, so maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but I think it comes down to a bit of the parent's mindset. I say this for two reasons. One, if you want to travel with kids, I'm assuming you are aware then that you won't be
Yes.
traveling the same as you did before, which is fine, right? Your reason for travel and your ways of traveling change over life. But then the other thing is take it easy on yourself and don't set your expectations so high. Like maybe your
Okay.
goal for the day when traveling with kids is to try new food that day. Maybe it's not to go to three different
Right.
destinations within the destination. But yeah, I think maybe you want strong arms in Bogota if you have kids because you're going to be maybe carrying them up these hilly areas. But no, I do think Colombia, I think everywhere is kid friendly. It's a matter of adjusting to the place and what your
Right.
child needs.
Fine. About the tours you talk, did they have kids as well?
There weren't any kids on those tours, but you definitely could have had them. The fruit tour, I think kids would have a ball with.
Yes, I can
Any
imagine.
market that yeah, like any market that you go to, it's like sensory, not overload, but just the stimulation is fantastic from all the different things that you're seeing happening to the languages that you're hearing to all the food you get to
Yeah.
try. Both of those tours, I would say, were great for kids. And Usake Market, you're just walking around there. Another great spot for kids to get exposed to the world. Yeah.
Right. I also want to know about the hospitals over there in case a traveler falls sick. Maybe they had some bad food, or maybe they couldn't acclimate quite quickly. So, how accessible are healthcare? No, health.
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Mhm.
I would not be the best person to answer this question. Yeah, sorry, I don't have more on that.
No, no, no issue. So, would you happen to know if you need like special prescription to buy any medicines?
I would say anybody who has prescription medicine should make sure that they have enough when they're on the trip with them and maybe bring a little bit extra just in case. Maybe your flight gets
Right.
canceled and you have to stay in a destination longer. So bring a little bit more than you think you may need. What else? Travel insurance is the other thing that every traveler should have,
Yes.
whether it's the travel insurance that you get on your credit card or additional insurance that you purchase. That I think should never be overlooked. So those are two things that maybe I would say in preparation for the trip that you make sure that you've got.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I
Great
don't
tip.
know about purchasing medicine while you're there.
Okay, no, travel insurance is a great tip. Yeah, another great tip.
Yeah.
Okay, since you mentioned credit card in Bogota specifically, is it easier to purchase things from cash or credit cards?
I was able to use my card there. So all the tours I paid for online through Airbnb.
Right.
When I was at the market, I used a mixture of cash and card. Yeah, you can do both. I think it's always handy to have some cash on you in another place. The other thing to
Yes.
consider is that depending on the credit card that you
Mm-hmm.
use and depending on where you're coming from in the credit card system, you'll be paying foreign exchange fees. That's something to maybe factor into your budget as well and whether or not you want to use a credit card. Yeah, that's very, I think that's like dependent on personal preference. But yeah, bring some cash always. Get it before you go from like a local currency
Yes.
converter. Do not get it at the
Mm-hmm.
airport. You will always pay more for it. And then, yeah, when you're there, there will be some situations like tips you want to leave in cash
Mm-hmm.
for tours and such. And then smaller vendors, you'll need to use cash. But restaurants and such, you can use a card if you want to.
Okay, coming to the tip culture, is it expected over there to tip your servers and waiters or whatever?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think that's a pretty North American thing.
Yeah.
I think it can be appreciated, although places when I lived in Ireland, some places it was, how do you say? I'm blanking on my words right now. It was not quite insulting, but it was like we don't need that. We're just doing our job. So
Right.
I think much of the world holds that opinion. I think really North America is where they're like, you got to tip. Yeah. Colombia, you're fine.
Yes, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned buying tea from Bogota. So can you tell me more about the shopping there? What did you buy? Are there any specific places where that's like a shopping giant or shopping hub?
Yeah, the market where I saw the chocolate. So here, I've got a souvenir behind the computer here. So when I was in the market, I'm not big on souvenirs. Usually I buy postcards. I like them, like I'll like to frame them when I'm at home, or I haven't, I've only done this once for myself, but I think sending a postcard to yourself
Nice.
from the destination that you're in is a really neat souvenir as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I was in the Usakane market, there was an artist who made these doors and they are particular to Colombia and to Bogota. So they did all these designs of like actual doors that are in the city. And I was like, oh, that's a cute and unique souvenir.
Yeah.
I love bringing home tea from destinations that I'm in because I drink tea all the time. So it's something that I know I'll use and it will give me a little smile each
Right.
time I have a little cuppa. And I always bring home chocolate from wherever I am. I bought a few chocolate bars and brought those home too. But markets are a fantastic place to get anything that you want to bring home, either for a gift or for yourself. You'll get local vendors, which is important to support,
Mhm.
probably find something tasty, and you'll have artisans there too. Like I bought several prints from a photographer that we ended up meeting there who was this really lovely guy. And it was neat to hear his story and the stories behind each of the photos as
Nice.
well. So yeah, markets, they're a great spot. And also, I will say this is a little embarrassing. Maybe it was because I didn't do any research beforehand, but Colombia is known for its emeralds, and that's my birthstone. So I was like, "Oh, what a perfect souvenir I'll get for myself this momentous trip." And I was like, oh, I'll just get some tiny earrings, some tiny emerald earrings. And I went into the Emerald District and I talked to a couple jewelers and I was trying on things.
Okay.
And I was like, I love this pair of earrings. What a nice souvenir. And then I asked for the price and I almost choked because it was like $6,000. And I was like,
Whoa.
I think this is out of my price range, but thank you so much for your time today. I tailed it out of there. But something that's particular to a place can be a really neat souvenir
Yes.
as well. Yeah.
So basically, you can find souvenirs or like tiny little magnets or something in every corner of the city.
Yeah, I don't know about every corner of the city, but I do think that markets are a wonderful place to get something that reminds you of somewhere. And I think it depends too
Mhm.
on what is a souvenir for you. Maybe it's like a journal entry where you're
Right.
not purchasing anything, but you're getting to look back on your memories, or maybe it's photographs that you take. When I've been in different places,
Right.
I usually try and buy something that's particular to there. Yeah.
But if I had to ask, this is, I think, a hypothetical question that knowing the things that you do now, if you had to plan your trip again to Bogota, how would you change it? Or is there anything you'd change about it?
If I was to go back to when I go back to Bogota, I would spend longer there.
Right.
A, because it's a massive place, but
Hmm.
B, because as I said, I'm always working when I'm traveling. So my trips are very rarely a vacation. They're very integrated with work. So yeah, I would say go for longer. I think now that I've been there, I think I would map out the city and be a bit more intentional with different places that I want to check out within the destination. I like to use Google My Maps, which I find is a great tool
Yep.
for trip planning. I think those are the main things.
Maybe.
The season, yeah, it's pretty moderate up there. The temperature honestly was perfect in March. It was like my ultimate kind of temperature. Early 20s kind of temperature, 20 to
It's
25, a
cold
little
to
bit of a
me.
oh, it was lovely. I would go at the same time for sure. Yeah. No, it was great. I also like to read about destinations after I've been to them,
Okay.
which because I now have a personal association with them, I find am more interested in learning about the destination after I've been there.
Yes.
So I would say probably read more about the destination now to prep for the next visit.
Perfect. Okay. So is there anything I haven't covered that you think is something important that travelers should know?
I think in general, the first rule of thumb is just go. And the second is just have an open mind. Be ready for what the destination is going to reveal to you and whether it's a difficult situation or an exciting situation or whatever it is,
Right.
just soak it all up. Yeah, enjoy.
Okay, it was wonderful talking to you about Bogota, just seeing the world and the place through your eyes. It was a wonderful time talking to you. Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
hope
It
you
was so
have
good chatting with you too.
I hope you have more journeys to share with us. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.